Deconverted Man here. The biggest unsolved and perhaps unsolvable problem in logic is natural language. Words have multiple meanings and people use them in different ways. This is why it's good to pick a dictionary beforehand to agree with your opponent that we're going to be using this dictionary, but we should also maybe say we're going to be using definition 1, 2, 3, and 4 for this, that, and the other word, whatever those words would be, and using that definition so that it's consistent throughout so that nobody gets confused. But that doesn't always help the situation. Even the word why itself causes natural language problems. It's a freaking weird word. It's an adverb, it's a noun, it's whatever the bleep it wants to be. Blee? Whatever, I'll leave that in. Blee. You can explain in the comments below what blee is. Anyways, so Gary Edwards, who I'm subscribed to, and many of you are as well, made a well-spoken video, as he usually does, about what the definition of atheist could be, or perhaps from his point of view, what it should be. And I would love, really love, if language was this precision in everything. Every single word would have such precision as he employs in that video for the word atheist. That would be awesome, because it really would lessen or maybe even get rid of the natural language problem. In fact, we would probably have to create new words and perhaps have one definition per word, and maybe even get rid of words that sound the same but are spelled differently, like knight in Shining Armor and the night, as in it's dark at night, which means that Armor Skeptic would have some problems being a knight. Because, whatever. Anyways, maybe we would say it the way they used to say knight, which was like knafe or something? I don't know. But this has caused some disagreement, of course. What is the definition? Well, you look at Google. Google will give a definition now. And, you know, you can go to different dictionaries. I happen to enjoy Urban Dictionary because it's humorous and sometimes it's accurate, but of course Webster's and Oxford, more respected dictionaries. But so far the definitions have been consistent across the board. A person who lacks a belief in God or gods, people that don't think that there is a God. Those are two different definitions that have been consistent throughout for the word atheist. Now, some go into more detail, that there's positive and negative atheists, that there's agnostic atheists, and so on and so forth, and some don't go into that long detail. As far as I know, the dictionaries are made based on popular usage. Now, I don't know if there's like a voting system involved or how they figure out that sort of thing. I was trying to figure that out in a text comment to Gary about this issue. I was like, I don't know how it's done. But if we wanted to, let's just say we wanted to change the word atheist. How many people would it take to write into Webster's to get them to change it? I don't know. I have no idea. Or if that's even a thing. I don't think that that's how it works. I could be wrong. I just don't know. But if we all just started using the same definition, whatever that definition is, then that would be our definition. And whether or not it's in a dictionary is irrelevant. We've made this word mean this, and within our community, we've agreed that this word means this thing. If we decided that rock no longer meant rock, but instead rock meant pineapple, from now on, whenever you say the word rock, you're talking about a pineapple. And because we don't want people to use the word pineapple, when you say the word pineapple, you're actually talking about a rock. And I guess we could do that if we all agreed. because words are created by the joint decision of the group, which means that words commit the logical fallacy of an appeal to popularity. But that's all we've got. That's it. That seems to be how language works. And new words will come in, old words will fade out, words will change their meaning over time. Humbug used to be a swear word, now like nobody uses it unless they're doing a Charles Dickens story of the Christmas tale, or unless they're using the word humbug as a reference for a word that we don't use anymore. The word FAG used to mean cigarette, but now it's a derogatory term for homosexuals, specifically male homosexuals. Why? I don't know. It just changed. The N word meant one thing at one point and then has changed over time and now has been retooled to mean something completely different, and hopefully in the future at some point it will be a non-word. I think that swear words, the more we use them, the less power that they have. But I personally choose not to swear in my videos, although sometimes it's really hard, especially when I'm dealing with some of this nonsense. We all have to make decisions about how we want the word to be. Now, I said to Gary, if you made a premise-based argument, premise 1, 2, 3, and 4, and it was valid, I'll join the club. I'll say, yeah, I totally am with you on this. This should be the definition. He gave essentially what I would call an essay format in his video. So until I have a logical argument, I personally just am going to be like, yeah, whatever. But even if we got a lot of us to go along, unless everybody's going along with it, it's not really going to change things. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a waste of time, because change, especially social change, is a slow and gradual process. And like I said, I like the idea of making this word more precision-based. But why just this word? Why not every word that there is? Now, I understand, or I think I understand, maybe, and this is a little bit off of logic, so I could be wrong, I don't want to straw man Gary here, that the motive is to make it so that the religious can't make arguments that the word atheism isn't a good enough definition because it doesn't adequately explain what it means to be an atheist. I understand that, both intellectually and emotionally, and I don't know if that is the reason, but I'm going to just assume that it is. And again, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it doesn't matter what the religious argue in that sense, because what a word definition is doesn't have to be precise. Like, there is no rule that I know of that says any word has to have some sort of precision to define it. And even if it was the case that was a rule, that still would be irrelevant to the arguments that the atheists are presenting for or against God, or anything else for that matter. Because again, what the word is defined as, even if it was a rule that it was against the rule to have a really poor definition, okay, so we can't use that word anymore. I don't know what we're going to call ourselves now, but bleep it, it doesn't matter, because the arguments are still going to stand or fail on their own merits. That's what ultimately matters. Should we argue with each other on this? If we can argue in a civilized manner that is logical, and not in a deconstructive, criticizing manner. If we can offer each other constructive criticism and logically based arguments, then absolutely. If the argument becomes erratic, let's drop it right then and there, because there's no point in having that sort of dialogue. Now, I know I probably mispronounced heuristic. It's erastic, heuristic, however you want to pronounce it, okay? It's the dialogue where you are trying to hurt the other person using words. I read a couple of different things for and against Gary's specific usage of the word. Some of us agreed, some of us didn't, some of us were more neutral, whatever. And he decided to respond to one particular YouTuber, who's also pretty well known. Now, the last thing I want to see is drama between atheists. Didn't we have enough of that with the atheist vegan doing his thing, which I totally was going to make fun of at some point, but I kind of forgot about it and felt like, who cares? Even if I do make a video about how much I love meat, the vegan atheist isn't going to notice me, and thus I'm not going to get some more subs just by being silly. And besides, do I really want to go to that sort of level to get more subs? No, just stop. Okay. My point is, agree or disagree, that's fine. It's great, it's wonderful. We should be able to agree and or disagree with each other, as long as we do it within the confines of logic, using persuasionary dialogue or information exchange dialogue. Now, I think it might be better to do these things privately, but is there a time and place for open debate? Sure. Could we have a debate about what atheism should mean? Sure. I would love to see that. I think that would be very interesting, as long as it's done, again, within the confines of reason and logic, and not to harm each other, but to build each other up and to help understand each other's views. Not talk past each other, but talk to each other. At the end of the day, maybe you don't agree with Gary's ideas, and that's fine. There's nothing saying that you have to. Even if he did have a logically coherent argument, you could still be like, yeah, but I don't want the word to mean that, so screw you. And that's fine too, although maybe you shouldn't add screw you, because that's a little bit not nice. Come on, be nicer than that, people. Why'd you say screw you? Okay, that was just, I don't know. Anyways. So, regardless of what we would like the word to be, or how precise we would like the word to be, it is what it is. Can we change it? Maybe. Would it take time? Absolutely. Definitely. History has shown over and over again, any change is difficult. Just getting the theist to admit that atheism doesn't always mean the idea that there is no God is tough enough. To get a complex definition like Gary's to be acceptable, I mean, to the atheist community, maybe within a few years we could do that. But for the theist community, forget it, because they're just gonna think that it is whatever they want to, I guess. But my point is, one battle at a time, right? We gotta pick our battles. Now, CapriciousBlackBox ages ago had talked about giving up the title atheist or something to that effect. And I kept bugging him to do a video about me or with me, but he never did. I see you, CapriciousBlackBox. I know you're watching this. Anyways, look, I'm not desperate for more subscribers. Anyways, this isn't a video about me. It's a video about logic. Why do I keep distracting myself? Sorry. This is what happens when I analyze a creationist video for too long. I blame Matt Slick, even though it's not his video. I just blame him for it. bottom line, if we want to change the word, and I see no harm in wanting to make it better, more precise, more descriptive, what it really would mean, I keep wanting to say boils down to for some reason, I'm sorry, it's the lobsterist in me. We want to boil all evil away. If you boil lobster, you're evil, by the way. Just letting you know. That's the... Anyway. That it would be a fourth or fifth definition. That's what would happen. Just taking, for example, the Urban Dictionary, which I know isn't a real dictionary, but just for an example, there's 1, 2, wow, 2 is long. Oh my goodness. 2 has a long list of examples. So there's 2 examples there. The first example is pretty short, the second is long. Google had 2 definitions. I think Webster's had 2 or 3 and different sentences explaining it, and other dictionaries had more or less, depending. Wiki, is pretty much a hodgepodge of all of them put together, and you can take it or leave it. But at any rate, if we were successful, it wouldn't be like that's the only thing that this word ever could mean. It would just be now the 5th or 6th line added. Atheist can also mean wall of text as well. And that wall of text would be what Gary Edwards had promoted if we were successful in adding that to dictionaries. If we weren't, then it would just be a small subset within atheism that happens to be on YouTube, where we all kind of know each other or know about each other to some degree or the other, and it would just be us using this word this way and nobody else. Unless you can get somebody famous to champion it, like Dawkins or Harris or somebody like that, it's not going to catch on. If you could get Neil deGrasse to champion it, maybe. But even then, it's not going to necessarily catch on like wildfire, and even if it did, it would just be like the 4th or 5th definition added, because the other definitions aren't going to go away. They just aren't. They're going to stay there, because not everybody's going to agree, and even though the majority wins on what a word means, that doesn't mean that the meaning is just reflective of the majority. I might be wrong in this, but I'm pretty sure I remember seeing the word atheist defined as believing there is no God. It has changed now where that definition is lower on the list, and the higher definition is a lack of belief in God. I consider that a victory of sorts, and I consider it what we should consider language, as a constant evolving thing. Maybe one day we will have this precision language that I would love to have, and that Gary might love to have. But I don't think we're even close to that yet. We'd have to start with far simpler words like why, for example. We need 2 different whys. We need a why for the noun and a why for the adverb. Because if I ask you, why do we exist, do I mean, how did we get here? Or do I mean, is there more than that? Like, is there a purpose to it? And because why is nebulous, I might mean either, neither, or both. So, if we're going to tackle language, which I would love to do, I think we would have to, tackle every single word, and that could take a lifetime. And it might be an interesting thing to do, and I know there are people that study language and do language as a profession. I wouldn't want to get super involved in it myself, but I would be like, yeah, that's cool. All right, sure, I'm for that. Yeah, that's good. So props to Gary for bringing up this topic, because it is a good topic, and I happen to like the idea of a more precision word, but we have to all agree on it. it also has to be logically coherent for my taste. The current definition reflects how people feel about this word, which then kind of goes off track of the whole logic thing, because words sometimes are based on emotions rather than logic. Even though that's not how I would want it to be, that's how it currently is. So what can I do? Well, you can change and challenge the status quo, certainly, and there is every right to want to march forward and champion a cause. But maybe it's too big of a cause. Maybe it's too large. Maybe it's too soon. I don't know. I can't say. But who knows? Maybe this will catch on. I really don't know. But when you, whoever you might be, respond, and I'm sure you will respond in some way, shape, or form to Gary's video, this video, or other videos on this topic, I would say do so within the limits of logic. Don't go off into erratic dialogue, because that's useless. If there is something that is emotional about it, maybe you feel like atheist to you means just lacking a belief in God. That's how I feel about it. I just don't believe in God. I don't think that there is a thing. I don't even know what that thing is. But could there be? I guess. I don't know. So what the bleep do I call that other than not believing that it is? I don't believe that it isn't, because I don't even know if I can properly define the word. So some might say that makes me agnostic, atheist, or whatever. I don't know. But I like to just say I'm skeptic and screw it. How do we define words? How do we decide that we're going to define a word in a new way? How is that word brought into realization by the community? These are interesting questions and ideas to explore. And there's no harm with disagreeing with anybody as long as you do so logically. When you don't, when it starts to become an attack and drama, let's not do that. We're better than that, aren't we? Those are my thoughts for you. And this was a weird video because there's no counter or anything. I'm working on it. Okay? I'm working on it. Take care, and unless and until we have a logically coherent argument, blah, 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 lobsters exist. Also, Gary Airwords, give me a shout out. I want the subscribers. I need them. I'm okay now. No, seriously, I'm okay. But Captain, he's not a captain. CapriciousBlackBox. Captain CapriciousBlackBox. I'm coming for you, man. And Alex, you haven't dropped my docs like I told you not to. What's up with this? Why can't I make people do what I want? Oh, what do you mean it's still recording?